You ever walk in on someone talking about your dad, and they're smiling just a little too much? That's how this started. I was grabbing a box of spark plugs from the supply room at the dealership, middle of a Wednesday, middle of a Midwest summer, which means sweat, sticky air, and the hum of fans that barely did anything. And I hear her voice floating down the hallway. Emily. My wife of 8 years, supposedly. And she's saying, he's actually really wise when you give him a chance, you know? Like, unexpectedly charming. Then she laughs. Low. Flirty. Like something out of a rom-com with a wine glass in her hand. And I don't know what annoyed me more, the tone, or the fact that she was talking about my dad. Now, for context, my old man isn't exactly George Clooney. He's a former linebacker turned used car patriarch. Big belly, bigger opinions. Still uses cash, still calls women gals, and still thinks therapy is a scam by coastal elites. So charming was new. I walked into the room like I hadn't heard anything. She was leaning against the desk in the front office, laughing with Janine, our bookkeeper. Janine gave me the guilty high school look, the one you flash when the guy you were talking about walks in. Emily just smiled. Hey babe, she said. You're out of carb cleaner in Bay 4. Then she winked. Winked. Like I was the one getting lucky. Later that night, I brought it up. Casually. Over dinner. So, you and my dad been chatting more? She looked up from her quinoa salad, a new health phase she'd forced onto both of us. At the shop. Sounded like you're getting close. She tilted her head like a sitcom wife about to give a moral lesson. I mean, he's growing on me, she said. You always said he was rough around the edges, but he's got this old school warmth. We've been talking more. You should be happy. Happy. Sure. Except for the part where she used to call him a grumpy relic and insisted we never leave him alone with our niece because he probably still believes in spanking. But suddenly she's glowing when she talks about him? Okay. Strike 1. Strike 2 came the next week. She starts dragging me to the gym. Correction, she starts inviting me to the gym, then acting disappointed when I can't make it. I just thought it'd be good to do something together, she said, pulling on leggings that somehow felt tighter than usual. Then why are you going with my dad? She paused. Like she didn't expect me to connect the dots. Oh. I mean, he's already up early. And it's just convenient. Right. Convenient. Because everyone dreams of early morning squats with their father-in-law. Strike 3 came in the form of matching scratches. Neck. Left side. Small. Thin. Almost artistic, if scratches can be artistic. I saw hers first on a Sunday morning when she got out of the shower. Wet hair. Towel wrapped. Turned just right as she grabbed her lotion bottle. I pointed. What's that? She glanced in the mirror. Oh, that? I think the facialist slipped during extractions. We did this couple's spa thing yesterday, remember? Yeah, I said. You mentioned it. Except I never asked who he was. Because I already knew. 2 hours later, at the dealership, my dad pulls up late. Steps out of the courtesy car with his golf shirt half untucked, smelling faintly of eucalyptus. And wouldn't you know it? Same scratch. Same spot. Left side. Like a signature. You all right? I asked. He squinted at me like I'd just accused him of stealing tires. Why? You've got something on your neck. He touched it. Shrugged. Probably razor burn. Been using that new gel your wife got me. And just like that, I felt my stomach turn sideways. Because when someone lies to you, and I mean really lies to you, it's not the words that hit you. It's the details. The two specific ones. What kind of guy remembers the exact shaving gel brand his daughter-in-law gave him? What kind of daughter-in-law gives it in the first place? From there, everything started to shift. I noticed her phone was always face down now. Always on silent. Always conveniently out of reach when she went to the bathroom. I noticed they'd both start sweating at family dinners, not from the heat, but from the tension. Like two kids who'd kissed behind the bleachers and were praying the chaperone didn't notice. And the worst part? Everyone else seemed to be buying it. My mom just thought it was sweet how Emily was taking such an interest in the business. My cousin Dave thought it was hilarious how the old man still pulls more attention than any of us. And me? I was starting to feel like the punchline in a joke I didn't write. So I did what any humiliated husband with access to dealership inventory and a slowly crumbling marriage would do. I checked the dashcams. You see, we'd recently upgraded the courtesy car fleet with those cheap, motion-activated dashcams. Not because we were paranoid, because last winter some kid borrowed a Civic overnight and left blunt wrappers in the glove box. So I installed them. Quietly. One in each car. Nothing fancy. Just enough to prove someone took the long way home. And guess what? One of the cars, a red 2022 Camry, had been logged out for a full Saturday 2 weeks ago. Technically under my dad's name. But the GPS trail? It pinged a spa resort in Cedar Falls. Same one Emily had mentioned. Just for fun, I pulled the footage. 10 seconds in, I had to stop the video. Not because I was shocked, but because I needed to breathe. There they were. In the back seat. Laughing. Touching. Climbing over each other like teenagers in heat. My father. And my wife. In the back of a dealership car that I had signed the keys for. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I didn't even cry. I just sat there, watching the screen like I was diagnosing a virus I already knew was fatal. And then I started planning the funeral. Not theirs. Ours. There's a moment right after betrayal where everything goes still. Not silent, still. Like the inside of a locked freezer. You can still hear the hum. But the movement? Gone. It's just you and the cold truth. That's where I lived for the next 48 hours. I watched that dashcam footage 5 times. Not because I was in denial. I just needed it seared into my brain. Every laugh, every stupid whisper, every time she leaned her head back with that look like she was the one winning. She looked happy. Genuinely happy. Happier than I'd seen her in months. Years, maybe. And it wasn't with me. It was with my dad. My 63-year-old, beer-gutted, used car wisdom spouting father. The same man who once told me he stayed married to my mom out of routine and tax benefits. And that's when I knew 2 things. 1, Emily wasn't who I thought she was. And 2, neither was he. So I poured a whiskey, sat down at my desk, and opened the filing cabinet that still had our prenup in it. The dusty manila folder we hadn't touched since we signed it 9 years ago in my parents' living room, back when Emily still pretended she liked Miller Lite and thought football was kinda charming. Page 3, Clause 7. Morality and infidelity conditions. I'd forgotten about it. Honestly. Back then, we were just following my dad's lawyer's advice. Standard stuff, he said. In case she ever goes Lifetime original movie on you. We laughed at the time. Now I wasn't laughing. The clause was clear. In the event of extramarital infidelity by either party, and should said infidelity be verifiably documented, the offending party forfeits all claim to business assets accrued under the marriage period, including but not limited to ownership, shares, profits, and influence related to Langford Motors or any affiliated entities. Translation? She loses everything. Not just her 25% share of the dealership. Not just her seat at the board table. Everything. Her income. Her standing in town. Her membership at the golf club. Her name on the sponsorship banner at the high school. Gone. All I needed was to execute. And I wasn't about to do it in court. No, that would be too small. Too private. This required an audience. You want to humiliate someone who spent years crafting the perfect small-town image? You don't send them papers. You send people. People who know them. Who admired them. Who took their casserole at the potluck and listened to them give marriage advice like they weren't playing grab-ass with their father-in-law in the back of a company Camry. So I started planning the event. It would be Employee Appreciation Barbecue, something we hadn't done since pre-COVID. Family welcome. Plus ones encouraged. Full invite list, entire dealership staff, longtime customers, extended family, a few local partners, and of course, Dad. And Emily. She'd never miss a chance to play queen of the dealership. Not with a microphone in her hand and her curls pinned just right. I told her the idea one night over dinner. She smiled like I'd finally let go of the stress. You used to love hosting, she said, spearing an asparagus with one of our wedding forks. I smiled back. Yeah. I guess I just needed to remember who really mattered. She reached for my hand. It made my skin crawl. But I let her touch it. Because the best part of revenge? Is letting them think they're safe. That weekend, I talked to Kevin, our head of IT. Told him I wanted to run a photo slideshow at the barbecue. Like a teen tribute. Fun memories. He lit up. Said it was about time. Asked if I had any media. I'll get you a thumb drive by Thursday, I said. Cool. Want music in the background? Nah, I said. Better if we just let the moments speak for themselves. I went home that night and got to work. Found every old team photo I could, company picnics, retirement parties, even that one from 5 years ago when we all dressed up like Elvis for April Fools. I made it a nice little montage. Nostalgic. Heartwarming. Then, at the 3:10 mark, I inserted the footage. From the Camry. But not the whole thing. Just the moments that told the story. Him brushing her knee. Her whispering, "We have 20 minutes." Their lips colliding like this was some steamy romance novel instead of a betrayal unfolding in a company vehicle paid for by my labor. I muted the audio. Let the images do the work. Then I added a final title card. Some memories shouldn't stay hidden. And the screen fades to black. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt surgical. Like I was removing a tumor. On Thursday, I handed Kevin the flash drive. He smiled. Looks good? Perfect. By Friday, the dealership buzzed with excitement. Appreciation Barbecue signs went up. Emily brought in hand-painted bunting from Hobby Lobby. Said it gave things a chic touch. My mother offered to make her famous corn casserole. My Uncle Dale asked if there'd be karaoke again. I told them all yes. Because when people feel comfortable, they pay less attention to the rope tightening around their ankles. Saturday arrived. Cloudless sky. 82 degrees. Someone brought cornhole boards. One of the porters set up a speaker for light country music. Kids ran barefoot across the lot, dodging between trucks and folding chairs. Emily wore white. Of course she did. A flowy sundress that said grace and loyalty and please take my side. Dad showed up late, as always. Slapped my back, handed me a cooler, and said, "Brought some of that IPA trash your wife likes." Figured it'd score me points. I smiled. Tight. Sure. We'll both need a drink today. By 3 o'clock, the food was mostly picked over. Plates sat half-eaten on laps. People were mid-buzzed and sun-warmed, the perfect level of distracted. I grabbed the mic. "Hey everyone," I said, "thanks again for coming out today. It's been a hell of a year, and we wanted to say thank you. Really. You guys are the backbone of this place." Applause. Emily beamed from her seat near the front. I clicked the remote. The screen behind me lit up. Photos began to roll. Laughter. Cheering. The occasional "oh my god, remember that," floated through the crowd. At 3:09, Kevin gave me a subtle nod. And then the real show began. Silence fell like a dropped plate. You could hear the footage before they understood it. The door click. The whispered laugh. The lips smack. Then recognition. Emily. Dad. Locked together in the back of a Camry that still had the dealership logo on the headrest. Gasps. Someone choked on a sip of beer. Janine said, "Is that?" I clicked to the final card. Some memories shouldn't stay hidden. Then I looked down at Emily. And I watched the color drain from her face. My father stood frozen. His mouth didn't move. His hand slowly dropped the IPA. She stood up. Trembling. "You." I raised the mic again. "Oh. And Emily?" She blinked. Eyes wide. "You violated Clause 7 of our prenup." That little morality bit? The one about infidelity and business assets? I held up the folder. "This is your copy." Then I dropped it on the ground in front of her. "You're out. Of the marriage. Of the dealership. Of everything." The crowd was silent. Stunned. And I turned to the rest. "Enjoy the cake." I walked off. Behind me, someone clapped. Just once. Then twice. Then more. Applause broke out like a storm rolling in. And Emily? She stayed standing. Frozen. Like someone who just realized the show she'd been starring in wasn't a romance. It was a reckoning. The first thing Emily said to me after the barbecue was, "You ruined my life." She said it like it was a fact. Like I'd burned down her childhood home. As if I had slipped into the backseat with my father and rolled around like a teenager playing truth or dare with incest-adjacent implications. I didn't answer. Because the truth is, I hadn't ruined her life. She had. I just let the slideshow do the talking. But people like Emily, they don't see it that way. They always think they're the victim until the camera pans out and shows the full scene, and by then it's too late. She showed up at the house 3 days after the barbecue. Not the front door. She came through the back gate like a stray cat, hoping not to be noticed. She was holding her phone, keys, and that stupid leather planner she always used when she wanted to look composed. The same one she'd carried to our prenup meeting all those years ago, back when she still pretended to respect my father. I was on the porch with a beer. My cousin Jake was mowing the lawn, pretending not to listen but definitely angling for details. "You blindsided me," she said. "No," I said. "You blindsided me. I just hit play." She looked thinner. Or maybe just deflated. Her hair was pulled back tight, like it was trying to hold her together. No makeup. No fake smile. "I didn't think you'd go public." I raised an eyebrow. "What did you think I'd do? Write you a breakup poem? Light a candle and say thanks for the memories, and also thanks for necking with my dad?" Her eyes flashed. There it was, the real Emily. The one who hated being outmaneuvered more than anything. "You humiliated me." I nodded. "Correct. That was cruel." I leaned forward. So was doing it in a dealership car. With a man who's supposed to be my father. In a town where every single person now knows you as that woman from the barbecue. She didn't have a comeback. Just stood there. Mouth a little open. Planner clutched like a shield. "I want to talk about the prenup," she finally said. I smiled. Of course she did. Because when the image cracks, people like her always retreat to what they can control. Their money. Their leverage. Their reputation. She thought she still had a foothold. She didn't. "You broke Clause 7, I said. "It's documented, verified, and witnessed by 67 people, give or take a few drunk uncles. That clause is outdated." "Nope," I said. "It's contractual." Signed, notarized, and enforced by our good friend Stephen, who, by the way, is very excited to litigate this for me. She looked like she was going to cry. I didn't flinch. Take it up with your reflection, I said. Maybe it'll blink first. She left after that. Didn't come back. But the town? Oh, the town did come back. Langford Motors was suddenly the hottest thing in 3 counties. Everyone and their cousin wanted to drop by and see how you're holding up, which really meant, can I catch a glimpse of the guy who aired his dirty laundry like a Netflix finale? I got flowers from a woman I hadn't seen since high school. One guy left a 6-pack with a post-it that said Team You. A teenage detailer made a TikTok of the barbecue footage with Taylor Swift playing in the background. It got 1.2 million views. I didn't even know we had a TikTok account. Meanwhile, my dad vanished. Stopped showing up to work. Didn't answer texts. Didn't even come to Mom's Sunday dinner, which he hadn't missed in 20 years, not even when he had pneumonia. It took about a week before word got around that he'd holed up in a cheap motel on the outskirts of town. The kind of place with numbers in the name and a continental breakfast that was mostly cereal dust and expired orange juice. He sent me one message. 2 words. I'm sorry. I didn't respond. Because sorry doesn't change the way my employees looked at me now. Or the way my mother had gone completely silent since the barbecue. Or the way Emily's sister, who used to adore me, now avoided eye contact at the grocery store because she couldn't process what her family was connected to. This was more than infidelity. This was identity theft. They hadn't just cheated on me. They stole who I thought I was. Son. Husband. Boss. Pillar of the community. And in 10 seconds of dashcam footage, they turned it into a joke. But I wasn't going to be the punchline. That's when I called the national chain. Big dealership conglomerate. Had been sniffing around us for years, lowballing offers, sending feelers. I'd always said no. Family business and all that. But suddenly? There was no family. Just me. And a chance to cut clean. I met with their rep, a slick guy named Roland who wore suits even on weekends and smelled like imported arrogance. I thought you said you'd never sell, he said, sipping cold brew like it was a test. I said I'd never sell while it still felt like home. And now? I looked him dead in the eye. Now it feels like a crime scene. We struck a deal. Good terms. Better than I expected, honestly. I made it clear, they keep the staff, respect the name, and they can do what they want with the signage. He smiled. We might keep the Langford name. Got a nice ring to it. I shrugged. Name's for sale. The man behind it isn't. We shook hands. Deal done. Just like that, Langford Motors was no longer mine. And honestly? It felt good. Not happy. Not triumphant. Just clean. Like I'd finally taken out the trash that had been rotting under the floorboards. Emily tried to call me 3 times after the news broke. Left one voicemail. You sold the dealership? Our dealership? Wrong pronoun, sweetheart. Mine. You just rented the lighting. By the time the sale finalized, the town had mostly moved on. Scandal fatigue. Something about a high school coach getting caught with a cheerleader's mom. But people still nodded a little too respectfully when I passed. Still whispered. And every so often, someone would ask, do you regret it? And I'd say the same thing every time. No. I regret waiting so long to see who they really were. Because in the end, it wasn't about the footage. Or the claws. Or the barbecue. It was about watching 2 people you trusted throw you under a car and finally deciding you're not going to be the one left in the road. You know what's worse than betrayal? The silence after. That weird vacuum where no one knows what to say, so they just don't. And every time the phone doesn't ring or the front door doesn't knock, it feels less like peace and more like everyone holding their breath, waiting to see who moves first. Dad broke the silence 6 days after the sale closed. He showed up on my porch wearing the same windbreaker he's had since the Clinton administration. You could see he hadn't shaved. His eyes looked like he'd aged 10 years in 10 days, and his hands shook just enough to make the thermos he brought look like a white flag. "Mind if I sit?" he asked. I didn't answer. But I didn't tell him to leave either. So he sat. For a while, we just listened to the wind rustle through the elm trees. August in the Midwest. That time of year when the air feels like it's holding back heat until it can weaponize it. Finally, he said it. I messed up. Still didn't look at me. Just stared down at the coffee cup like it was gonna tell him how to fix this. Not just with Emily, he added. With everything. I took a long breath. You think? He flinched like I'd smacked him. Good. Look, son. Don't call me that. He stopped mid-sentence. Swallowed. Nodded. I deserve that. No, you deserve worse. But I'm not here for revenge anymore. He blinked. Then what are you here for? To watch you squirm. He let out this weird half-laugh, half-sob. I know you probably think I did it because I was bored. Or selfish. Or just an old dog chasing heat. But the truth is, I was lonely. I looked at him then. Really looked at him. And for a second, I didn't see the man who taught me to ride a bike, or who handed me the keys to Langford Motors on my 30th birthday. I saw a man in freefall. Someone who'd built his entire identity around control of the business, of the family, of his image, and had just watched it all go up in barbecue smoke. She made me feel seen, he muttered. You mean she made you feel younger? He didn't deny it. She listened. Asked questions. Laughed at my jokes. I thought maybe. What? I snapped. That you deserved it? That I wouldn't find out? That Mom would never notice? He winced. Your mother knows. Of course she did. Because Emily wasn't subtle. She was bold. The kind of bold that thinks charm is an eraser. She moved in with Rachel, he said. Rachel was my aunt. Mom's sister. The one who always said Dad had good provider energy, but no emotional currency. She was right. She's talking lawyers, he added. Good. That hung there a minute. Then he asked, do you think she'll forgive me? I turned to him slowly. I think Mom's been forgiving you for 30 years. I think this is the first time she finally stopped. He nodded again. Didn't cry. Didn't argue. Just sat there with the thermos and a man's look of slow, earned ruin. Before he left, he reached into his pocket. Pulled out a worn envelope. What's this? Your grandfather's will. The amended version. I took it cautiously. Dad. Just read it. He left the dealership to you for a reason. Yeah, I said. And now it's gone. He gave me one final look, something between regret and relief, then walked off the porch. I didn't open the envelope. I didn't need a dead man's signature to validate me. I needed the quiet. Emily, of course, didn't stay quiet. She started showing up around town again. Not at the dealership, she knew better, but at safe places. Yoga. Farmer's market. That overpriced bakery on 5th with the kale scones and smug cashiers. She wore sunglasses like she was famous. Tried to pretend she still belonged. But I could see the cracks forming. The way people flinched when she got too close. The way conversations died when she entered a room. The way even her Instagram posts went from influencer chic to grainy photos of homemade tea and sad attempts at reclaiming her inner light. Then came the petition. A thin envelope slid under my office door one Tuesday morning. Request for renegotiation of divorce asset division. Attached was a handwritten letter. Ethan, I'm not asking for everything. I just want what I contributed to. I helped grow that business. I supported you. I wore the brand. Please don't erase me. I crumpled it before I finished reading. Because that's the thing with people like Emily, they'll set fire to your house, then ask for marshmallows. But something in me had shifted. I didn't want a court battle. I didn't want another public scene. I wanted this done. So I offered her a deal. You get the Jeep, the condo downtown, and a $25,000 severance buyout. That's it. She tried to argue. I didn't budge. Eventually, she took it. Probably thought she was biding her time for some long-game re-entry into society. But what she didn't know was the town wasn't waiting. It had moved on. Quickly. Because the Midwest doesn't forget scandal. It just pushes it into the second freezer in the garage and pretends it's not there until company leaves. And Emily? She became the kind of story you tell in whispers, the cautionary tale dressed in white at a family barbecue. I saw her one last time at the gas station. She was pumping diesel into a borrowed SUV. No makeup. Ponytail. A hollow look that screamed, I'm pretending this is fine. She didn't see me. Or maybe she did and just couldn't handle what it meant to look at me and know I wasn't angry anymore. I was indifferent. Which is worse. She had no power left. Not as a wife. Not as a partner. Not even as a memory. And my dad? He started going to church again. One of those non-denominational places with soft lighting and sermons about redemption. I heard he's volunteering with the seniors group. Mom still hasn't spoken to him. Sometimes healing isn't about rebuilding. It's about leveling the whole damn site. You ever try to sell off your past and realize the damn thing comes with a return policy? That's what the dealership felt like, even after it was gone. I told Roland, the chain rep, that I didn't want to be involved after the sale. No ceremonial photos. No press release. No passing the torch crap. I didn't even keep a Langford Motors coffee mug. When I walked out that last day, I thought I was done. Turns out, people don't let you walk away that clean. Especially not when your name's still up on the building in big chrome letters, even if they added Auto Group under it like a tacky tattoo cover-up. I was halfway through repainting the kitchen cabinets one morning when my phone buzzed. Private number. I ignored it. 2 minutes later, voicemail notification. Curiosity 1. I hit play. Hey, Ethan. It's Marcy from reception. I know you're not technically with us anymore, but something's come up. It's sensitive. You might want to see it. Just come in through the side door when you get a chance. I stared at the phone like it owed me context. Why the hell was the receptionist whispering like she was in a hostage video? I drove over. Side door. Same creaky hinges. Same scuffed linoleum in the hallway. Langford Motors, Langford Auto Group, hadn't changed much in 2 months. They slapped up some banners, swapped the coffee brand in the waiting room, and replaced the staff polos with a new shade of navy. But the bones were the same. Marcy met me at her desk, eyes wide like she'd seen a ghost. Thank God, she whispered. I didn't want to email it. Email what? She handed me a manila folder. My name was written on it in black Sharpie block letters. Familiar handwriting. I opened it. Inside, 8 photographs. Color. Glossy. Surveillance style. Each one showed a different angle of the same scene. Emily. And Dad. Together again. Not in the dealership this time. Not in a car. In a motel room. Different one from before. Seedy enough to have no cameras. Classy enough to serve vending machine wine. Photos taken through the window. Nighttime. Curtains drawn just enough to be incriminating. What is this? I asked. Marcy looked nervous. They were delivered anonymously. No return address. Just dumped at the front desk this morning. You look at the timestamp? She nodded. Last Thursday. So this wasn't old news. This was new. Fresh betrayal, same recipe. I stared at the photos for a full minute. Not because I was shocked, God knows I was past that, but because I couldn't believe they were still doing it. Still choosing each other. After all the fallout. After the barbecue. After the implosion of two families. I left without saying much. Drove around for an hour with the folder on the passenger seat like it was a time bomb. When I finally parked outside Mom's place, I knew I wasn't there for closure. I was there for confirmation. She answered the door in her gardening gloves, dirt smudged on her cheek. Didn't expect you, she said. I have something you should see. She sat down at the kitchen table while I laid out the photos like playing cards. 1, 2, 3. All the way to 8. She didn't cry. Didn't scream. Just stared. After a long pause, she said, he told me it was over. Guess he lied. She nodded. Took off one glove. Then the other. Do you think he's in love with her? I laughed. Not because it was funny. But because it was tragic in the kind of way that deserves applause. No, I said. I think he's addicted to the version of himself she makes him feel like. Younger. Desired. Free. Mom didn't say anything. She just reached over and flipped one of the photos face down. Do you think I should tell Rachel? Rachel, her sister. Emily's new roommate. The only one who hadn't picked sides yet. Would it matter? I asked. I don't know. But I'm tired of protecting people from the truth. We sat in silence. Then she did something unexpected. She pulled a small jewelry box from a drawer and slid it across the table. What's this? Your grandmother's ring. The one she left me. I was going to give it to Emily one day, if you ever had a daughter. I stared at it. Tiny. Gold. A single ruby in the center like a drop of dried blood. Now I want you to sell it, she said. Or melt it. Just, make it not hers. I nodded. And for the first time in weeks, we shared something that didn't feel like wreckage. It felt like choice. Like survival. That night, I did something I hadn't done since the divorce. I went to the dealership's service lot after hours. Parked. Sat in silence. Watched the flickering lights above the bays and remembered all the nights I stayed late, fixing up beaters with Dad, talking about nothing, believing everything. I used to think legacy was a gift. Now I knew it was a burden. Something handed to you with expectations stitched into the seams. And when people tear it open, you're the one who has to sew it shut. I took out my phone. Opened the photos again. And deleted them. Every last one. Not because I forgave them. But because I didn't want to be the guy who needed them anymore. I was done collecting evidence. Let them rot in their motel memories. I was building something new. Even if it didn't have my name on the building anymore. Small towns don't heal. They just get quieter. People stop talking about the scandal, not because they've moved on, but because they've told the story so many times it's worn down like a smooth river stone. It becomes a whisper. A punchline. A warning. That's what Emily and my dad were now. A cautionary tale in tan leather and faded polo shirts. It had been 6 weeks since I got that manila folder with the new motel photos. I'd burned it in a Weber grill behind my house while drinking a beer like I was giving a eulogy. Since then, I hadn't heard a word from either of them. But they were still around. People saw them, separately, mostly. Emily pretending she was on some post-divorce awakening journey, hanging around co-ops and overpriced wine tastings. Dad showing up at town hall meetings like he was still a voice worth hearing. But the buzz was fading. And I wanted it to stay that way. I was finally starting to build something again. Got hired on as a consultant for another dealership 2 counties over, not my name on the sign, but I didn't care. No baggage. No expectations. Just clean spreadsheets and engines that didn't lie. Then came the invitation. It arrived in the mail, cream-colored, too stiff, the kind of card you know costs $8.99 and still smells like desperation. On the front, it said, "Join us for a celebration of new beginnings." Inside, "Please attend a private garden party hosted by Emily Langford and Thomas Langford, celebrating the joy of forgiveness in family. Saturday, 2 p.m. Formal attire requested." I laughed out loud. Actually laughed. Because if delusion had a mascot, it was this. Forgiveness? Family? The same woman who snuck around in dealership cars with her father-in-law and the same man who blew up his marriage, his business, and his relationship with his only son now thought they were due for a party? No. This wasn't forgiveness. This was image rehab. An event with fairy lights and wine spritzers designed to airbrush over the shame. They didn't want closure. They wanted applause. I dropped the card on the kitchen table and stared at it for a while. My first instinct was to burn it. Then my second instinct was to show up, just to see their faces when I walked in, suit-pressed, jaw-set, the one man in the crowd who didn't flinch. But I didn't do either. Instead, I made one phone call. To Mom. "Did you get the invitation?" I asked. She sighed on the other end. "Yeah. It arrived this morning." "What are you doing with it?" "Putting it through the shredder." "Good," I said. "You want to grab lunch that day instead?" She paused. Then said, "God, yes." So that's what we did. Saturday came. While Emily and Dad were clinking glasses under a rented tent surrounded by the 3 people still willing to pretend they were noble, I sat across from my mom at an old diner an hour out of town. We split a plate of fried pickles and 2 club sandwiches. She told me about a class she was taking, watercolor, of all things. Said her teacher was a 70-year-old retired UPS driver who painted koi fish with the intensity of a man solving murders. I told her about the dealership job. How it felt weird being anonymous again. Kind of freeing. Halfway through lunch, she reached across the table and said, "You know, you came out of this better than both of them." I raised an eyebrow. "How do you figure?" "Because you didn't let it make you bitter." I laughed. I gave a slideshow of their affair at a barbecue. She smiled. "Yeah. But then you stopped." And I realized she was right. Because that's the thing about revenge, if you do it right, you only need to do it once. Anything more is just reliving pain with a different costume. When I got home that night, there was a voicemail on my phone. Private number. I played it. It was Dad. "Hey. I guess you heard about the party. I just wanted you to know it wasn't about rubbing anything in. It was Emily's idea. I just wanted to feel normal again. Anyway, I left something in the old toolbox in your garage. Something I think you should have." I didn't call back. But I went to the garage. Opened the old red Craftsman he gave me for my 16th birthday. Inside, under the screwdrivers and measuring tape, was a small velvet box. I opened it. Inside was his wedding ring. The one he took off and never put back on after the fallout. Taped to the lid was a note. "I don't deserve this anymore. Maybe you'll know what to do with it." I closed the box. Set it on a shelf. Didn't throw it away. Didn't wear it. Just left it there, like a tombstone for the man he used to be. And that was that. No speech. No confrontation. No dramatic final blow. Just quiet. A clean break in a town that never forgets. I didn't forgive him. I didn't forgive her. But I forgave myself for not seeing it sooner. And in the end? That's what real healing is. Not forgetting. but choosing to stop picking the scab. I still get the occasional look. The occasional "is it true?" whispered across a bar. And I don't correct them. Because I want them to know it happened. Not to punish her. Or him. But to remind everyone that the truth always finds its way to the surface, even if it has to come from a dashboard camera and a barbecue microphone. You cheat with your son's wife? You better be ready for the meat to burn. I'll bring the fire. You bring the lies. Let's see which one people remember longer.
Subscribe to the channel